Well, thank you, Rob, for that nice introduction. You read it exactly the way I wrote it, and it was very, very good. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor for me to be here with just such a small part of the program before the two distinguished main speakers will be addressing you. And I thank the North Dakota Policy Council and Brett and Curly and Rob for asking me to be a little bit part of the program tonight. I thought maybe lighten it up just a bit before I got into a couple of serious remarks, and then I'll introduce former Congressman Barry Goldwater Jr. But some of you might remember Will Rogers. He had a great influence on the political scene in the United States, passed away way too young. But I've got a few of his quotes, 2 or 3 of his quotes I wanted to share with you that I think are appropriate for the evening. In November of 1929, Will Rogers wrote, "Never blame a legislative body for not doing something. When they do nothing, that don't hurt anybody. It's when they do something is when they become dangerous." In 1924, January 27th, he wrote, "Washington, D.C. papers say Congress is deadlocked and can't act. I think that is the greatest blessing that could befall this country." And in May 12th, 1935, he stated, "The things about my jokes is they don't hurt anybody. You can take them or leave them. You know what I mean. You know, you say, well, they're funny, or they're terrible, or they're good, or whatever it is, but they don't do any harm. You can just pass them by. But with Congress, every time they make a joke, it's a law, you know, and every time they make a law, it's a joke." How typical then and today. Well, Rob mentioned that I am in the state legislature. It's an honor to be there, serving District 46 in southeast Fargo. And I've become sort of known in the legislature, in the House, of the person who reminds the people of the North Dakota Constitution. You see, we don't just have the problem in the United States Congress of passing unconstitutional laws. We have the same problem in the North Dakota legislative session. So many times during the debate, my colleagues will tell you that I'll ask to be recognized, and I'll bring out the North Dakota Constitution, and I'll read a section of the law in the North Dakota Constitution that I believe pertains to the bill before us, and I'll make the statement, I believe this bill is unconstitutional and ought to be defeated. And then it gets passed. And that's the problem we have. We in North Dakota have the same problem the federal government does in many cases, not abiding by the Constitution. Now this evening we're centering around the 10th Amendment to the Constitution. I just want to read it. I'm sure many of you know it by heart. "The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people." Now, ladies and gentlemen, I submit the United States Congress, both Republicans and Democrats, have forgotten what the Constitution says. And this Tea Party movement and the meeting that we're having here this evening, and that we're going to continue to have as the days and the weeks and the months and the years go by, is going to take our nation back, because that's what we have to do. And you're going to help do it. Obamacare, I'm on the Interim Industry Business and Labor Committee. We've spent 1.5 years studying Obamacare and its impacts on the state of North Dakota alone. Now, we haven't gotten through the whole 3,000 pages of the bill because most of the rules and regulations have not been written by the bureaucrats yet, but we're getting there. But what we have discovered so far, by involving our state government officials, by involving Blue Cross, by involving the Insurance Department, Health and Human Services, and bringing in experts from across the United States, we have identified that Obamacare alone in North Dakota is going to cost the people of North Dakota over $1.1 billion in the next 10 years alone. And that's atrocious. On top of that, they're going to tell you and me and our business owners that you have to buy health insurance even if you don't want it. And they're going to fine you if you don't buy it. The Constitution doesn't allow that, but the people in Washington and the Congress and the President of the United States don't seem to care, don't seem to listen, don't seem to read. It's time to make a change. I believe in November we're going to make that change, the beginning of that change. We've got to wait 2 more years to get rid of the biggest problem, but in November, on the election in November, we can start that crusade. And that's incumbent on every one of us in this room to do what we can between now and that election to get your friends and your neighbors to get to the polls and to vote the way they ought to for the conservative candidates and to send Governor Hoeven and Rick Berg to the United States Congress, because we need them there. In the next legislative session, we will have battles. We had a bill in the last session to try to state that the people could not be forced in North Dakota to buy health insurance. That lost on the floor of the House 17 to 77. 77 people in the North Dakota House of Representatives voted against the Constitution of North Dakota and the Constitution of the United States. That's atrocious. But this time around, we'll have another bill. And I hope you'll all be there to help support that bill and to get our legislators on both sides of the aisle to vote the right way. We'll be introducing other states' rights legislation. And I hope you be vigilant and you contact your legislators and you get involved and you come out there and you testify, because we need you there. You do make a difference if you show up. So it'll be an exciting session. Next session, we're going to also have a big surplus. As you know, it could be close to $1 billion. I'll be introducing legislation to reduce personal income taxes, to reduce corporate taxes, and to reduce personal property taxes, because if we don't give it back to the people, we're going to spend it. I want it to come to you. A client of mine sent me this book. Many of you will recognize the title, The Conscience of a Conservative, by Senator Barry Goldwater, first printed in 1960 by Barry Goldwater Jr.'s father. I had the honor of having our next speaker sign it for me. What an honor. I've just started reading it, and I'm going to enjoy that. I recommend, if you can go buy it in the bookstores, get it. I'm sure it has principles that we need to reiterate in our lives and in the lives of our families. Now it's my pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce Barry Goldwater Jr. He was elected to Congress 7 times by his Los Angeles County, California constituents. As a congressman, stockbroker, entrepreneur, author, and caring citizen, he spent his life advancing the Goldwater brand of rugged conservatism and private sector compassion. An early supporter of the Reagan for President movement, his public career has been time and again defined by choosing principle over politics. Congressman Goldwater lives in Arizona with his wife, Sophie. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Congressman Barry Goldwater Jr.